So hello and welcome to 1990. It's me, Amanda O'Shea from the Serendipity Experience, speaking with Mr. Jeff Munn, all the way over there in Colorado. And Jeff is a friend of mine who's very dear to me. We met maybe the year 2013.
I think that's right.
Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah.
2013? Yeah, and
Yeah.
on Jack Pransky's extended professional training number 2. And you had
Yeah.
ended up, you were living in Washington, D.C. then.
I was, yeah.
It was kind of quite you joined the course, very quickly, or you'd only just kind of been introduced to Jack or something. And so he was like, I think
Yeah.
Spain and do this training. Do you remember?
Well, so I don't remember all the details, but I can't remember exactly how I found Jack. There was, I went through this phase where I read Michael Neal's book, and I think I had seen some of Dickens' videos, and I somehow was led to Jack. And then I discovered, so I'm living in Washington, D.C., just outside in suburban Maryland, and I discovered Jack was living in Vermont. I was like, oh, well, this is great. I was really drawn to Jack, and so I sent him an email. We ended up talking on the phone, and he basically said, well, the only way to work with me right now is to come to Spain.
So you went all the way.
And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And I think I made up some story about why I couldn't possibly go to Spain. And he called me out and said, well, that sounds like you're just making an excuse for, you're making that up. It's your thinking. And I realized he was right. And it felt like, wow, this feels important to me. I think I'm going to do this. And so I signed on to fly to Spain twice for a few days and spend a bunch of time with Jack doing the exercises and everything in that training for how long was it? 6, 7, 8
months.
8 months, something like that.
Maybe 6, 7 months.
Yeah.
Like that, 2 weekends, and then we had all those things in between, and it was a really special group, wasn't it? I mean, for me,
oh my God.
training was like, that was where I had all my kind of, big.
Yeah. Well, and I remember you. So there was the first night, which was just the introductory talk for the locals.
Yeah.
That, as long as Jack's here in town, anybody who's local, come on in, and Jack will talk about the principles for an evening. And at the end of that evening, you signed on for the weekend. And didn't you have to move a bunch of stuff to make it work? And it's like,
I didn't go home.
Gosh, that's amazing.
I didn't go home. I was like, I went home to pack up, and I came back in the morning, and it was one of those like, wow, I want to do whatever these guys are doing. Like, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
It was really special for me, and it was like I didn't really have a clue what they were talking about, what any of you were talking about. You all seem to know a lot more about it, but it was like, I want to know more. And it's like, yeah, okay, and isn't that incredible? It's incredible, really, that, at the time I didn't even have finances. I didn't have, and I remember at the end of the talk, Jack coming over to me and saying, can you tell me what's on your mind right now? That I'm trying to work out where I can get the money from to do the course that everybody else here seemed like they were doing. I think there was about 13 people doing the course. There was about 30 people in the room who'd come to just listen. And something just got me. Jack was talking about wisdom, and he was talking about the wisdom being that everybody having same access to wisdom. And as he said that line, the moment he said that line was when I was just in my thought thinking, oh wow, it must be so amazing to, like, to know all this stuff, and imagine like being married to someone like that, or imagine working with someone like that, or imagine, and as I in my head, I'm going off in my kind of, wow, he's amazing and I need to learn from him. He was pointing us all back to, you've got everything that I've got, it's like,
right.
And it was, for me, it was one of them like whoa, kind of that feeling. You hear people saying, I don't know, whatever you call it, but for me it was a light bulb moment, and it was I could feel it come up through my feet kind of thing, I was so excited. It was a big turnaround point for me. That whole weekend, that first weekend, the whole course. And ever since that, Jeff, I've never looked back.
Yeah, it seemed like, I mean, to have watched the change in you from start to end of that program was pretty amazing. I mean, I remember watching that, and then to see you kind of go off and do do all of the things that you've been doing. I mean, it was fantastic. Can I just take one brief? I've got a sick child. I think I told you, and he poked his head in. I just want to check with him.
Okay, good plan. Yeah, I'm going to talk about what it is. So you go do that, and I'm going to tell the people.
Okay. Hang on.
What? So when the reason why Jeff comes into my mind so often, or in my memory, is that when we were doing this course, this extended professional training with Jack Pramsco, I ended up doing 3 years training with Jack. We would do presentations ourselves, amongst the class, and we'd be all taking it in turns to being coached and doing little presentations. And one of the things that the first place that I ever heard somebody talking about, the title of this talk is 100% no exceptions. And the first place that I had heard that was when Jeff wrote something on the board. And you wrote something which was like, we're only ever feeling thought in the moment. 100% no exceptions to the rule. And I remember then sort of repeating that, I don't know how many times. We are only ever feeling thought in the moment, no exceptions to the rule. We're only ever feeling thought in the moment, no exceptions to the rule. And I don't think that it sunk in then like the way I saw it about, I don't know, maybe a year or 2 years later. And I remember that, oh my God, like 100% no exceptions to the rule. And because I find myself saying that quite a lot, I suppose maybe because that was something that I heard that had such an effect on me. When I share that in my sessions or in my workshops now, it's funny because I see people doing that. We're only ever feeling thought in the moment. Like I can watch them repeating it because I think I've forgotten now. So for about 7 years, I've been hearing that, and it's just like that's the norm for that's the norm for me now. I'm not saying I don't fall out of that. I'm not saying I don't have my days where I forget.
Yeah.
Where I forget.
I forget every day.
Right. So
yeah.
So telling the people that, what we're talking about is the way that our thinking system works, the way that we create our feelings. That I think one of the biggest things that I heard on that first training, and one of the biggest things that you helped me to see, Jeff, was that the outside world does not have the power to affect us anyway, not negatively nor positively. Like nothing out there, no circumstance, situation, event, other people, trauma, nothing has the power to make me feel a certain way today in this moment.
Right. It sure seems like it though, doesn't it?
Of course it does. And, I swear to God, it was only 8 years ago that I really saw that to be true. And that's after being a therapist for many years. For being in sort of an exploring thought and exploring all of this sort of stuff. This understanding blew my mind. It blew my socks off, because on that weekend, that first weekend we spent together, was like, oh my God, this explains all human behavior.
Yeah. And if you want to prove, well, so there's a couple ways to, the place I go is, well, prove it. And there's a couple ways that I like to think about when I'm trying to remind myself, oh yeah, I'm creating this. One is, the way we're set up our entire experience is going on in our brain. So we don't have any way of experiencing the world directly. So, everything is electrical impulses. Everything is thought, some kind of, like, whether it's words or feelings or emotions, it's something that's going on internal to us that is some kind of representation of what's going on out there, filtered through this story that we're writing, this narrative that we're writing 100% of the time. And there's no other way to experience the world. And the other thing that I remind myself of is, oh, well, the other day the same thing was happening to me and I was perfectly happy. So it can't be the experience. I'm frustrated now with this situation or that situation, but I was perfectly fine with it when the same thing happened a week ago. So it can't be that situation. It's got to be me.
And that kind of explains as well why we can be in one situation and we all have a different experience of it. So,
Yeah.
what the same situation occurs and four of us are there and one person finds it boring and one person finds it exciting and one person finds it pathetic and another person didn't even
Yeah.
notice it, like the same thing happened. We're all in the same room or we're all at the same party or we're all wherever.
The
And
same movie, the same book. Yeah.
it explains separate realities.
Yeah.
For me, I love that, the inside out understanding. That's what I commonly refer to. The inside out understanding that we're creating everything inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it kind of plays out there.
Right.
But
Right. And the other piece of it that is, we instinctively think, oh, well, if I'm creating it, then I need to change what I'm creating, or I need to think more positive thoughts, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. And we turn it into some kind of effort instead of just saying, oh yeah, I'm thinking this, and if I wait a little bit, just like the weather, I'll be thinking something else.
it's kind of like, I think if you were hearing this for the first time, I remember hearing it for the first time, it's a little bit of a head like, oh yeah, it's being told that the way that the majority of the planet believes and believes of that the system works is wrong. It's not
Right.
true.
Right. Well, and you think about everything that's set up to convince me that, oh, if you go to this school, or you get this job, or you marry this person, or you live in this place, or you buy this car, it's all outside in. It's all someone trying to sell you something to convince you that you're missing something you need and that they can provide it for you. I mean, that's our whole system's set up that way. We are inundated with those outside in messages nonstop. So it's very hard to remind ourselves, oh, it's actually different.
And yet, even saying that, I think everybody sees, they really understand that things don't make us happy.
Right.
Because we all know people that have got boats, yachts, cars, the job, the wife, the husband, the this, the that, and that's not where the happiness comes from.
Right. And we've all had that experience. I think that the thing that's so enticing about it is we've all had that experience where we just get this new thing or have this new experience. And in the moment, it's really exciting.
Mm-hmm. So it must be that. It must be that, right?
And then, 3 days later or 20 minutes later, even, it's back to the way it was before.
And I think getting my head around, okay, like nothing has the power to make me feel happy, but I feel really happy with this, I don't know, this scarf that I've got, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know, favorite pashmina or whatever it is. And really getting to see, like, no, that can't be true because it's lovely. Like, I love it when I put it on and it's soft and I remember where I bought blah, 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 blah. But understanding for me that, oh, I wasn't feeling my scarf. I was feeling my thinking about the scarf.
Uh-huh.
Because if I showed you my scarf, I bet you wouldn't get as excited.
I
Yeah,
don't know. It might be an amazing scarf.
like, things like that, like little things, really. Like I love, and there's always cushions, and I love fabrics, and and it would appear like they make me happy.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would appear that
It's
I have the
convincing.
experience of happiness.
Yeah, it's really convincing if you don't look at it too closely.
Mm.
And
Mm.
then when you do start to think, well, wait a minute, scarf. I saw this scarf last week. I wasn't happy. What?
Mm.
Maybe it's not the scarf.
Maybe it's not the scarf. Maybe it's not, maybe it's not the car. Maybe it's not the job. Maybe it's not the bank account. Maybe it's not the girl. Maybe it's not the boy.
Yeah,
Maybe it's, and when we get to see that, like it doesn't mean um, we can't enjoy happiness in things. But we can enjoy it more. You know,
right.
we know that it's our thinking about it, and so for me, I enjoy, I enjoy everything more,
Right.
and it's super helpful for me to know that, especially with other people, that they don't have the power to make me moody. They don't have the power to make me
Right.
sad.
Right.
You know, that takes a lot of blame away from
Yeah.
those those around, those close around, because that is a lot of, I think, a lot of people's first place to go. You see, we don't we talk about, I love it that we talk about like the happiness misunderstanding, because it's the same whether it's the sadness misunderstanding or the,
Yeah.
but with happiness, like we really get to see, oh yeah, so and so's got that and they're not happy.
Right.
So we get, I think,
We think
no,
that yeah, we think that happiness is this destination that if we find it, somehow we'll be able to stay there. And instead, it's just this gift that comes and goes, and we can appreciate it when we have it, and know when we don't have it that it'll come back.
the bounce back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so we have moods. Some days we feel crummy. Some days we feel great. That's just life. And it's when we fight that I think we get ourselves into trouble. That when we say, "Oh, I want the good stuff without the bad stuff." It's like, no,
Yeah,
life just does that.
yeah, and none of it being really good or bad either, right? But it feels like that. I've
Right.
got my list of good, bad, and ugly.
Well, yeah. If you're in pain, or if something's happening that you feel difficult, it's natural to want to resist that. But
Mm.
at the same time, that's what life gives us.
So seeing all of it is the gift of
Mm.
experience. Seeing that, anybody sort of watching this for the first time, especially, like just that again, like we're only ever feeling thought in the moment, like 100%, no exception to the rule. That
Right.
is, that is something that, for me, that line is like 100%, no exception to the rule. Yeah, but what about like if my daughter died in a car accident, or what about if
Yeah.
this, or
Yeah.
oh, surely that would, and even when you put it back to like, because that's where we were trying to prove it wrong, like you said, like people want to prove it wrong, don't they?
Right.
They want to. That's in our nature, like
Mhm.
human nature. It seems to be that we like to kind of like, we want the proof, we want the, and I think when you see it for yourself, when you see the proof for yourself, because it kind of shows itself to you. I don't know how long that took you to see it, but I think it took me a while. I think that was, I think I was about a year in before I really,
Yeah.
really saw that. Really, really
Yeah.
saw that. So when I see people, when I've maybe written something like that on the board, and they're kind of going, they're repeating it to themselves, and they're repeating it to themselves, just like I did.
Hmm.
100%, no exceptions to the rule. I, okay, I just let that settle now, because that's a bold statement.
Yeah, it is, and it's Well, one of the things that I notice when I'm in that place where I can appreciate it is I somehow I just stop trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, of course. And
Because
I don't feel like I need to change anything.
mm,
Everything just, my thinking, that narrative going on in your head constantly, it slows down. And it's just, there's just a little bit of this,
mm,
and yeah, I'm okay. I'm fundamentally okay.
mm. And it is somebody, I was a friend of mine called Steve. We were on a retreat together recently, and I love the way he talks about. He was saying, listen, it's like Amanda and I, we have the same thinking that you guys have. It's just that we've kind of turned the volume down now. It's
Hmm.
like we don't hear it in the same way. It doesn't have that same power that
Yeah.
it used to have. But it doesn't mean that we don't have thinking. It doesn't mean that we don't hear the narrative. It doesn't mean that the conversation, the internal dialogue isn't going on.
Well, when you think you're directly experiencing reality, you take it way more seriously than
Mm.
when you realize, oh, it's just that I've got my thoughts, Amanda's got her thoughts, and none of it's true.
I know, it's like, and then it's like, then it's like, well, what's the point? Whether I always get the one, well, what's the point then? What's the point in anything? So
Yeah,
the point is we can get to play, and we
yeah.
can get to play all of it, and we can get to pick up an Oscar, for our acting. Like, really, we can.
Yeah,
All okay.
yeah.
But Jeff, the idea was just to keep these kind of short and sweet, and I think that's
All
probably
right,
probably a good place. Hey,
that
it's like,
sounds great.
100% no exceptions to the rule. We're only ever feeling, thought in the moment. I'll always be grateful to hearing that from you, and it has such a fondness for me because that that group,
Hmm.
everybody, Frederick and Meta Louise and Syed and Sue and all those guys. I get to see those guys more than you because they're in your,
Yeah, I wish I miss every one of them. It was
yeah,
a wonderful group.
it really, really was, and they're going to be in about 5 or 6 of them that will be at Viva this year. Five or six of them are speaking there this year at the Viva event.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I keep thinking I'm going to make it over there at some point. It hasn't happened yet, but I watch on Facebook.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I do. So keep watching, and yeah, lots of love, and I hope your son gets better soon, Jeff.
Thank you. I'm sure it's just one of those bugs that'll be gone in 24 more hours at most.
Oh, well, it looks like he's bugging you to go play.
Yeah.
Let you go play. Jeff Munn from Colorado, you are number 13 in
Yeah. Lucky 13.
90 and 90. And what a pleasure just to reconnect with you again. And yeah, thank you for all the
You
love
too,
that
man.
you showed, in those early days for me. It was really, really appreciated. And to know it's, yeah, we're all still out there, right? Doing our stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was great to see you and reconnect and catch up a little bit.
Yeah, good stuff. So lots of love to you, Jeff, and good
You
night,
too.
everybody. Yeah, thank you,
All right.
thank you.